Thank you so much for inviting me on Morgan Conducting Academy. It's my honor to share this research topic with you to learn more about Eastern Asian musical cultures and their choral repertoires. I also have a handout that is a PDF document that the link is in the chat, and you can also follow along with the handout. It has active links to many of the composers' websites, and also have some lyric translations and some personal scores that we can look and watch during our session together. So thank you for joining us on this session. And this session is a very brief introduction. I try to keep it brief because each of the musical culture have thousands of years of music history, and they're very unique cultures. I hope that today that we are going to explore the choral tradition as well as the choral development in the musical cultures from Eastern Asia. And musical cultures in Eastern Asia, usually if we look at the map, is considered cultures from Japanese cultures and Korean cultural, Chinese or the Han cultural, and we also have the Mongolian cultural. And among these four large cultures in Eastern Asia, there are still many smaller groups of unique cultures, minority ethnic groups that live there and have their unique musical culture. So the repertoire is deep-rooted in each unique culture, yet it's also influenced by the Western European choral canon since the 19th century. And during our time together, I wish that we can consider some questions and concepts while we experience these musical cultures. And how can we define a musical culture, since it might be mingled with so many different aspects and composition styles? Should we categorize a piece based on the nationality of the composers, or the language of the piece, or the musical style that appear in the piece? I think those are questions that is very, very frequently asked when we are seeing choral repertoires from Eastern Asia. And also in this session together, we're also looking at these repertoire and musical cultures from a gender issue point of view, because in the Marcia Citron's research, that gender issue in the Western European canonic music canon, under the title Gender Professionalism and the Musical Canon, she described the canon in literature in the way of defining the scope of the discipline. So masterpieces that is considered within the canon should be highly respected and have a high representation to its time as genre. So Citron also stated that work admitted to this prestigious group command deep respect and form the literacy core perpetuated in the English curricula. So the word canon that was used today, that she used it in the Western European musical culture. And today we're also looking at this gender issues that we encountered in the Eastern Asian musical cultures here. And based on this research, the gender issues and biases usually appears in three aspects. One is the music education aspect. Since the history, women are having more difficulty getting to a professional degree and education in music composition in the history. And we see that changing today in the 21st century. And also in the gender issue, we also see a limitation of style, genre, and length that is composed by female composers. That they're usually, since the Western European music history, we know the term saloon music, and many of the female composers' work are expected to be short, less orchestral, choral, multi-movement masterpieces that were commissioned for these female composers to compose. And also female composers are also seemed to compose more on the style and topic of love or of lamentation, of those emotional topics. And the last part of the gender issues that we usually see is the publication, critique, and reception. Usually, the critique and reception of female composers' work remains a large issue, that they don't have enough of reviews, and they don't have a equal critique and reception as their male colleagues in the composition world. So we can also find Asian composers and compositions in core literature textbooks that they rarely appeared in those textbooks. And or like those textbooks we used in the United States, the Dennis Schruck book of choral music, and also choral music in the 19th and 20th century by Dr. Nick Strimple. And there are only a very few pages that is dedicated to these composers. So as we look back on the topic that questions that we asked before, sometimes we see a lot of non-idiomatic Eastern Asian pieces appeared nowadays, and that is also largely due to the education factor, that many of the female composers or composers in general, that they travel to study composition from the Western European countries. And we'll also see that in many of the composers' bio as we go along today. And these are some textbook examples that usually composers from Eastern Asia, especially in female gender, is overlooked in and doesn't really appear much on these textbooks.